Welcome back to This Week in Film. It's definitely the first time I'm saying that today. It's the weekly podcast where we get together and talk about the movies we've seen over the last week. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Midwest Matt Lauer.
Hey. Matt,
how are you still doing?
I am still doing great, Nick. How are you?
I'm also doing great. I've seen some movies since we talked about Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Excellent. What have you watched?
I watched two movies. I watched Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, and I watched this other movie called Runaway Jury.
Never heard of that one.
I had heard of it and only found out today after I watched it that it's a John Grisham.
Oh.
Which makes sense.
So it probably has a terrible ending.
It does have a terrible ending, yeah.
So spoiler alert for anything John Grisham.
What did you watch?
Well, I watched Signs, and then I watched The Sixth Sense, and then I watched Dark Phoenix. In spite of having had no plans to see this for a very long time.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to hear about Dark Phoenix because
I'm actually looking forward to talking about it.
Okay, great. Well, I guess why don't you start since you saw 3 movies?
Okay. Should I wait till I get to Dark Phoenix to do Preview Corner?
Yes.
All right. Then why don't I start with Signs?
Okay.
So Signs is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. Let's see. The plot of this movie is Mel Gibson and his brother and Mel Gibson's 2 kids live on a farm, and he is a retired priest. His wife is dead, and that's the setting. An alien shows up, and then more aliens show up. Really, it starts out with them finding like a crop circle in the yard. Something's creeping around in their farm area. And it's kind of out of order because this alien's there, but then later they're like, oh no, spaceships. And I'm like, I feel like the spaceships should have come first. Okay, well, whatever. And this movie is not good. I know a lot of people like it, and I can sort of understand why. Like, if it weren't for the completely unnecessary plot, like subplot about faith and stuff, and M. Night Shyamalan's dialogue, this would probably be a pretty decent, like, alien movie. There are some creepy moments. M. Night Shyamalan's not completely untalented. I mean, at least not at this point. So there is stuff that works. There are elements that are effective.
Was this his 3rd movie? Like, was this after Unbreakable?
This is after Unbreakable.
So this was when things started going downhill for him.
Yes. And I remember seeing this in the theater and being like, man, that was like a decent movie that had a lot of crappy stuff in it. And that's kind of like how I felt this time. Resident expert of everything, Heather Treat, and I decided to watch this. And we decided to watch it because we wanted something we could kind of laugh at and make fun of a bit. It's not... When I saw it in the theater, I was super disappointed because I had liked The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable. But coming back to it to laugh at it, I realized that it's not as Shyamalan-y as the movies that have come out since. So it wasn't just like tons of like ripping on it. There are just a lot of little decisions here and there that are unnecessary. The dialogue there is Shyamalan dialogue in it, so meaning there is some stuff that's dumb and overdone, but it's not as much as, something like Lady in the Water or The Happening. So, it was fairly entertaining. The faith stuff definitely, I think Shyamalan includes a lot of faith and fate and destiny and things like that because that's his way of seeing the world, and he thinks that he is destined by some larger forced to like be incredible. And, he's just so impressed with himself that I think
that same problem.
I think that's why this stuff's in there. It's because he's just trying to reinforce himself. Oh, you don't mean with M. Night Shyamalan. You mean with yourself?
Yes.
Oh, okay. The music kind of shows its hand a lot, where, you can feel the Shyamalan in it when it's like overly dramatic, or gets like, I guess, dramatic in both senses of like some things are supposed to be very epic and other things are supposed to be extremely uplifting. And it's just kind of one of the cues as to like how seriously he takes himself. But it was enjoyable enough. I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. I mean, I think people are familiar with the movie for the most part. I don't know. You've seen this. Are there things that kind of, when you're just remembering it, kind of stand out to you as like good memories or moments that are memorable in one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think the opposite about it that you said, where you said it's a decent movie with some crappy parts. Like, I think it's a crappy movie with some decent parts in it. Like, for instance, like that scene where like they're showing the home video footage of that children's party, and like the alien like walks across the alleyway or something, or the doorway. Like that's genuinely terrifying. Like, I was like, man, that's awesome. And then there's like a couple other moments in the movie that I can't really remember, but like that's I can't remember them, but they stand out. But for the most part, the movie like really just pissed me off. Where like the whole swing away and
oh god, yeah,
like and like that doesn't actually even matter, right? Like he's like an old baseball player and she's like dying and she's like, swing away, Mac, or whatever his name is, Morgan, and what she really means is smash the fish tank because the aliens are allergic to water.
Yeah. Well, and then like at the beginning of this movie, okay, let me clarify something, because I'm with you too. Like, I think that this movie is overall a decent idea with some elements of it that run throughout the entire movie that suck and ruin it. Mm-hmm. And so it ends up being a bad movie with good moments. So I'm actually on the same page as you. Okay. And things like that, like the swing away is terrible. The alien where it's like standing in the room where it's like okay, it doesn't make any of those noises. It's standing there holding Kieran Culkin in its hands, or Kieran Culkin.
I think Kieran is right.
No, there are three of them.
There's three of them?
Yeah.
Oh. Where he's having another asthma attack.
Yeah, and then it tries to spray poison into his lungs, but because he has an asthma attack, he can't breathe it in. To put it in Mel Gibson's words, his lungs were closed. That's not how asthma works.
It's not. That's not how asthma works at all.
So anyway, yeah, his lungs were closed, so he lives. But like the swing away, like there are all these dumb moments. A lot of them around. Oh, maybe it's not Morgan. Maybe it's Merrill. Like he goes into an army recruiter's office, and this weird army recruiter guy whose face is just jacked up, delivers these weird lines and speechy stuff. It's very Shyamalan-y. And then some loser that's in the office for some reason, just doodling or something, is like, yeah, that's Merrill or Morgan. I don't know. He's terrible. He also has the biggest strikeout rate because he was a minor league player, and apparently everyone's paying attention to the minor leagues here. Right. And the army recruiter's like, hey, wait a minute. Do you play baseball? Are you the guy who hit that one home run that was like 507 feet and blah, 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 and he like gives all these stats and stuff? And I'm like, clearly you know exactly who he is. Why are you asking him if he's played baseball? Yeah. Anyway, it's just bad bad Shyamalan dialogue. But there's also moments like where
it's like in Point Break where everyone remembers Keanu Reeves' college football career.
Right. Yeah, nobody. That is not a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe someone who's in the stands at a football game, years later would say, oh, I remember that because I'm a fan of this team and I've always been here for these things. And here we are in a football setting. But you're not going to just be walking around and having randos on the street being like, oh, my God, you're that guy who did that thing that maybe 10,000 people saw. Anyway.
You're a college quarterback who never made it in the pros. I remember you, along with everyone in Los Angeles.
Right. Name one college player of any sport right now. Exactly. Okay.
I can't.
Point proven. Yeah. So anyway, name a minor league player.
Oh gosh, I can't.
Point proven again. Okay. Now there's. I've tried
from what I understand,
never going to get to talk about this dog thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
From what I understand of baseball minor leagues. They just had the baseball draft the other day or the other week. And apparently there's like 40 rounds to the baseball draft. And I never realized that till this year. And all I could think is, I bet I could make it to a minor league baseball team. I wouldn't be any good at all, but I bet I would still get drafted because there's just so many teams out there. There's just so many minor league baseball teams across the country that they must just be desperate for players who are willing to make no money because they don't have to pay them minimum wage.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really know anything about minor league anything.
It's a racket.
Well, and I wouldn't be making the team. You tried throwing a baseball with me once. You saw what happens. It's bad.
We got you there.
Matt can't throw a baseball. But yeah, there's some other dumb things include like at the beginning of the movie, their dog, because apparently animals act funny. Now, mind you, they have two dogs, and one of them's perfectly fine, but the other one tries to quietly attack the daughter, and the son stabs it with a kitchen knife, and all is well. Like nothing comes. The kid is not even like traumatized or anything. He's just like, he was gonna kill what's her face and kill her. That's what he says. He doesn't say like he was trying to bite her or anything like that. And by the way, I don't know why he had a kitchen knife with him, but he goes.
Why did the dog attack her?
Because the animals are acting funny because of aliens.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
Well, that's what they say. But then again, like I said, there's another dog. They have two German Shepherds. And one of them's just fine. And then later in the movie, they forget it and leave it outside while they're trying to secure the house from the aliens. And I don't know. I think it gets killed too. I think there's like a barking, and then like a,
right
sound effect. Dog is killed.
Dog dying yelp.
And I got to tell you, man, those are not good dog owners. I would not be leaving my dog outside while there are aliens around. And I would not be stabbing my dog casually because I think it might bite me or my sister. I'm sorry. If my dog tried to bite my sister, I'd be like, hey, stop it. And I'd yank it around and take it in a room and close the door. But anyway, he had a knife on him for some reason. So.
You're just missing out on a great opportunity to stab a dog.
Yeah, I guess so. So that's Signs. What'd you watch?
So I watched Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. Which
spoiler
is
alert,
movie.
What a great movie.
It is terrific. And surprisingly, its IMDb score is only 7.4, which is terribly low, I think, for this
That's
movie.
lower than Aquaman.
I think you're right. And this movie is straight up excellent. It's from 2003, directed by Peter Weir. It stars Russell Crowe, who has never been better. I think he's better in this movie than he is in Gladiator. Paul Bettany is in this movie. He plays the ship doctor. He is awesome.
The two of them together too, man. They have great screen chemistry.
They really do. They're really good together.
You could believe that they have been like. It's hard for me to imagine them not being friends outside of making a movie together.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. It basically takes place during. I'm going to read the description here. During the Napoleonic Wars, which is the late 1700s, a brash British captain, who is Russell Crowe, pushes his ship and crew to their limits in the pursuit of a formidable French war vessel around South America. And that really is the plot of the movie. Is basically this British warship is hunting down this French privateer who is hunting them down. So it's like a game of cat and mouse on the high seas during the 1700s. And man, does it make me appreciate the modern times we live in, because I cannot imagine life as like a sailor in the 1700s. I mean, I can imagine it in the sense that it was just presented to me visually, but I mean, like the idea of having to live this life for years at a time. Like, you go out on this boat and you're out there for years and years, and you're like in constant peril, and just the conditions of life back then.
Well,
Man.
I think one of the most hard hitting, like, that's got to suck things is there's a period where there's no wind and they're just stuck on the water.
Yeah.
That's just the worst.
That's the worst. That's kind of where the movie takes kind of a weird turn. Cause,
it gets a little like paranormal.
Yeah.
Or superstitious, I guess.
Yeah. Because they start blaming this one guy that they don't like. They start calling him the Jonah, which is like he's basically cursed, and as long as he's alive, like, the ship is going to be cursed. And basically they convince, spoiler alert for this movie, basically they convince him to kill himself, or he like convinces himself to kill himself, and then when he does, the wind comes back.
Yeah.
And like, even the captain is like, well, you know, some people are just cursed, and it's great. It's just so well done. Like, all the characters in the movie make sense. Like, you really get a feel for the camaraderie of being on this ship. There's even like this one sequence where the captain has to have one of his men whipped, and he and Paul Bettany have this big argument about it. And while they're having this argument, they're like shouting at each other, but they're still very polite. And like they're speaking in that like 1700s way, which again is right in my wheelhouse right now because of Poldark, great show, where everyone is very proper to each other, and they're like, and they're having this disagreement, but they're still friendly with each other, kind of a thing. And it's just so well done. Like, I can't believe there aren't more of these movies.
Oh, yeah. It's so disappointing to know that was supposed to be a series and it wasn't.
Yeah.
But it is a great movie on its own. Go ahead.
I mean, I recently watched that In the Heart of the Sea movie, which takes place in kind of the same time period. And this is just so much better. Although the special effects are really getting dated in Master and Commander. Like,
really?
There's a couple of... Yeah, like, some of them look really bad now. Like, there's this one sequence where Paul Bettany is standing on a cliff in the Galapagos Islands, and you can just tell that he's standing on some green screen backdrop. And you're like, oh, well, I guess it has been almost 20 years. Like, some of this stuff is going to start to look pretty bad, and some of the stuff at sea looks pretty bad, but the story is so good that you don't care. Like who gives a shit? But like, what a great movie. If you haven't seen Master and Commander, I would highly recommend checking it out.
Well, it's sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When it comes to I wouldn't want to turn anyone off with the like paranormal or superstitious part of it, because like when it comes to that, it doesn't ruin things. Like, it turns into a weird, stupid movie or anything. It's like, it's just things go that way, And so as an audience member, for a moment, you kind of go like, wait a minute, am I supposed to... Was he actually supposed to be cursed? And it kind of puts you in the position of the characters who, like, you're like, oh, well, I could see how easy it would be for them to buy into these superstitions.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, no, of course the wind's going to come back at some point, you know?
Yeah.
But it's still like, well, yeah, it would happen sometime after that, you know, if someone took this on themselves and killed themselves this way. And it does make sense that this character would feel like he's bringing down the ship entirely because he's just bad. He's just someone who doesn't belong there at all.
Yeah.
He's not made for it. He's what I would be if I was on a ship like that.
Yeah, me too.
And,
there's that one sequence where they send him up to save somebody. There's like a bad storm and a guy is struggling to bring in one of the sails. And they're like, I think his name is Hallam, and they're like, Hallam, go up there and help Mr. whoever. And he gets like halfway up and he starts like freaking out because he's scared. And basically the guy he's going to help dies. And the whole crew blames him for it.
Yeah.
And I in that moment, you're like, I can't really blame him because I would be scared out of my mind trying to climb up this thing in the middle of a storm.
Oh, yeah, I'd have a total panic attack.
Like the fact that first guy is up there at all, and he's like trying to do his best, but like the wind is just too much, and he's like, I need help up here, and like they start sending people up to help him, and then like he basically gets blown away when the mast falls off the ship, and then like I think the most powerful moment of the movie is like he's like swimming back to the ship, like this guy who's gone overboard. He's swimming back to the ship and he's swimming towards the wreckage, but the wreckage is bringing the ship down, like it's acting as like a big anchor, and he's like 20 feet away from the wreckage, and Russell Crowe has to make the decision to cut away the wreckage, basically condemning this guy to death.
Yeah.
And it is a powerful scene. Like you can tell, like Russell Crowe is a really good captain. He cares about his men, and his men care about him, and they all believe in him, and he believes in his ship. It's a really powerful moment, and he has to kill this man, and basically he has to have some of the crewmates help him do it in order to save the ship.
And this, like, things like that, like these decisions and the debates that go back and forth. This movie is very character driven, but it, unlike a lot of movies that are supposed to be about characters, it is very much driven by the characters. Like it is pushed forward. It's very exciting, even when stuff's not happening in a sense of like action.
Yeah,
you know, it's not just about the characters, but they really move it along.
There's like a bunch of young, I don't want to say men, but like boys on the ship.
Oh, yeah. One's like 10 years old.
Yeah.
He looks like it anyway.
He looks like he's 10, and he's like put in charge of the ship at one point. Like, I don't understand how that worked back in the day. Like did he just have money and he was like why is that kid in that position?
Yeah.
But that kid is like does a phenomenal job in the movie, like as far as acting goes, and like he loses his arm in one of the early battles, and like Russell Crowe clearly cares about the kid. Everybody on the ship cares about the kid. Like there's no point in the movie when people are like the only person that gets treated poorly by the crew is the guy who kills himself. Like everybody on the ship really cares about each other.
Well, and you can see it in some of these really subtle ways too. Like I if I'm remembering right, when the kid is getting his arm taken off, like they're like Russell Crowe, the character that Russell Crowe is playing is like pretty unshakable. But in that moment, you see this expression on his face, and he kind of turns away, and you're like, "Oh, he can't handle it." All right.
I think the part you're thinking of is Paul Bettany gets shot on accident.
Okay.
And he has to perform surgery on himself.
Okay, yeah.
And Russell Crowe has to help, and he's like, if you have the stomach for it. And he's like, I've been around wounds my entire life. And Paul Bettany is basically digging into himself with a scalpel, and Russell Crowe is just kind of like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's like whimpering internally.
Yeah, but like he's such a man that he like sticks with it.
Yeah.
And he's like there for his friend the whole time.
Well, and speaking of being a man, I think there's not a single female in this entire movie. Which isn't me saying that's not me saying this movie's good because there are no women in it. I'm just pointing out it's probably one of very few movies I've seen who that don't have not a single female character, which totally makes sense given the setting.
If there were females in it, there would be. There are a couple females in it at like this one scene when they're like visiting a South Pacific island or something like that, or the coast of Brazil or whatever. But like the ladies don't have any lines; they're just like chicks in a boat, and Russell Crowe like eyes this one girl up. But like if there were women on the ship, there'd be some sort of love story which wouldn't belong at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's such a great movie. Like again, it makes me wish I knew anything about tying knots and like anything about ships. Like I mean, like this crew. And also, here's another thing I don't understand about ships is where do they put all this stuff? Like at one point they lose like a mast and like they rebuild
another mast. Yeah.
They have like another mast like in the basement of the ship. Like where do they keep all this stuff? Like they've got buckets of paint. They have all this food, like all kinds of stuff. Like where do they keep all this stuff? But that's just like a question I have about general shipmanship. So
that's what it's called.
Yeah, seamanship. There you go. But what a good movie. Like I said, I don't know anything about the Navy or being a sailor, but by the end of this movie, you feel like you're a part of the crew. Like you feel like you're on board, and like they say naval things like I don't know what direction starboard is or is it?
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, or the other ones.
Port.
Like is port to the left?
Yeah.
Why?
Why is that the word? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I remember which one's which because right has more letters than left, and starboard has more letters than port.
Oh.
Well, and now you'll know that too.
Yeah, okay. But like the movie, like they say all of these naval things, but like it never feels over your head, or you never feel like you're being lost in the goings of the movie. Like the movie really brings you along for the journey.
Yeah, it's not like reading a Tom Clancy novel.
Yeah. Like it's not overly smart for the sake of being overly smart.
It's kind of like speaking of Tom Clancy, Hunt for Red October, but with old boats.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a great analogy.
And I love both of those movies.
They're
and
both
now
terrific.
I want to watch them both and then put them very high on my ranking list.
Yeah. But that's really all I got to say about Master and Commander. Definitely check it out. And if you have seen it, watch it again. It holds up.
Yeah.
It's great. Just the interaction between Paul Bettany and Russell Crowe is just great.
And there's really good music in it.
There is really good music, you're right. I was reading the IMDb trivia for it, and it said that like Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany play like the violin and the cello during the movie, and Russell Crowe really learned how to play the violin for the movie.
Yeah.
So that's like a neat little trivia bit.
He's a musician, so it might not that it's not still a big deal to learn how to play something that nicely, but he plays guitar and stuff. So I don't know if it's quite the feat that I had assumed it was when I first heard that. What the hell are you doing?
I dropped the thing.
All right.
You
all
can
right,
hear that? I couldn't even hear that.
Are you kidding? It was like ping. All right. So should I go to The Sixth Sense?
Sure.
Okay, The Sixth Sense.
On your Shamalamathon.
Yeah, and this one's got the twist. So if you don't know about The Sixth Sense, don't listen to this. Skip ahead like maybe like 12 minutes and go watch it. It's a really good movie. So the plot is Bruce Willis is a psychologist. He gets shot by one of his former clients who was a kid when he worked with him. And then he starts working with another kid who...
Oh, man. I never knew that.
What?
That what's-his-name was one of his clients.
Oh, yeah. That's Donnie Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block. Right. Yeah, he was... Yeah, that's... Really?
I mean, I haven't seen the movie in like 20 years. So.
Okay, you probably knew it when you watched it, but forgot it over time. Yeah, because it's the whole point is like he's making up for his mistake by treating Haley Joel Osment's character, who basically is in the same position. And so like he eventually, you know, the kid reveals
Did Donnie Wahlberg see dead people too?
Yeah. And it's totally spelled out. So like I said, I think you just forgot it over time.
Wow.
It's completely spelled out. Because when I'll tell you, you're going to remember it probably now because I'm going to walk you through a plot point. So Haley Joel Osment's character reveals that he sees dead people and that they're always like freaking him out. They're everywhere. They don't know that they're dead. And he's trying to help Haley Joel Osment's character. I don't remember what his name is right now. His name's Cole. So he's trying to help Cole out. And Toni Collette plays Cole's mother, and she's awesome, and she's gorgeous in this movie too, by the way. And once Cole tells whoever Bruce Willis is that he can see dead people, at first he doesn't really believe him, but then he's listening to a tape in his ghost world. I guess he's listening to a tape of a session that he had with Donnie Wahlberg's character when he was a kid. And there's a moment in the tape where Bruce Willis walks out of the room and it's still recording. And so he turns up the tape player really loud, and then he can hear the ghost talking with the kid who he had originally been working with. And that's when he goes like, oh, okay, there really are ghosts. The kid that I worked with before who shot himself as an adult really heard ghosts. Cole probably really hears ghosts. Let me think about this. And then he tells Cole, like, hey, start talking with the ghost. That's probably the only thing you can do. And then everything gets resolved there, and Cole's happy. And then Bruce Willis realizes that he's been dead the whole time. And there are a ton of things in this movie that don't work. There's just like when you go like, oh, because the kid said that the ghosts see what they want to see. There are a lot of places where you can kind of go, oh, okay, that thing that shouldn't make sense makes sense if you get in the head of the ghost and say he doesn't know he's a ghost. But there's a lot that doesn't work, but it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. It's done well enough and there are enough like kind of seeds planted and enough things where they're like, oh, well, you would think that this wouldn't work, but we'll show it to you. So like when he realizes he's a ghost, you see all these things in reverse, like a door that he thought was locked actually had a table in front of it. And, you know, he thought he was talking with his wife, but she was just on her own responding to having having her husband be dead. So you get to see a bit of the character, the ghost character, convincing itself of things or seeing things differently. And it makes you have a lot of slack for other things that you might have a problem with otherwise. So in the end, it's really good, and I actually super enjoy this movie still. It makes me so much more mad that M. Night Shyamalan sucks as much as he does since then. But damn, it is a good movie, and a total recommend.
Now, I remember when the movie first came out, you did not care for it.
That's not true at all. I loved Sixth Sense. I saw it in the theater and I loved it.
Yeah,
So you must be
remember,
confusing it with something else because I hated signs. I hated signs, but I loved it.
I definitely remember it was you because you predicted the ending.
No.
You were like,
no,
you figured it out.
No. I predicted the end of Fight Club. My sister predicted the end of The Sixth Sense. I did not. You were thinking of somebody else because I totally loved The Sixth Sense, and I did not see the end coming at all. When it happened, I was like, what?
Yeah, I need to watch that again. I haven't seen it in so long. I don't even remember anything about the Donnie Wahlberg stuff.
Yeah, you really should watch it again. I was slightly nervous going back to it, and there are a couple moments where the dialogue gets a little Shyamalan-y, but it's not bad, and it altogether the thing just still rocks.
Cool.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, great. All right, so then the other movie that I saw this week was Runaway Jury from 2003. Is directed by Gary Fielder, and it stars John Cusack, Gene Hackman, Dustin Hoffman, Rachel Weisz, and Bruce Davison, who was the senator from the first X-Men movie who turns into like the Fishwater Man. Yeah. And that's all I can think whenever I see that guy. So this movie is based on a John Grisham novel, I guess, that I'd never heard of. And basically, there's this court trial, of course, and a gun manufacturer is being sued by Dylan McDermott's wife because of a mass shooting at their office. And it's kind of poignant today because mass shootings are so prevalent. And like the gun control debate still rages highly today. Like this movie's kind of still relevant. I mean, it's almost 20 years old and it's like a post 9/11 movie, but it feels like it could have been made recently. So that's kind of interesting. But basically, like it starts out as just like a regular trial movie where this lady is suing the gun company for making guns so widely available to people who shouldn't have guns, and then slowly the movie just turns into John Cusack is trying to sell. He gets himself put on the jury for this case in order to sell. He and Rachel Weisz are working together, and he is going to. Dustin Hoffman's working for the Dylan McDermott's wife, and Gene Hackman works for the gun company. And John Cusack is on the jury, and for $10 million, he will deliver a verdict for whoever gives him the money. So that's basically the plot of the movie, and it takes forever to get going. Because the first 45 minutes of this movie is just like a regular courtroom kind of drama. And then the twist happens where John Cusack and Rachel Weisz are working together, and then they're like extorting both sides of the ball. And then there's another twist like later where you find out that John Cusack isn't who he says he is. He's like some other guy from like way back when who's been like trying to get on one of these court cases for forever as revenge for another mass shooting when he was in high school. And it's really convoluted and it gets really stupid and the ending is bad. It turns into a pretty dumb movie. But Gene Hackman is really good in it because he's Gene Hackman. Dustin Hoffman is pretty good. I always like John Cusack. No Joan Cusack. Jeremy Piven is in this movie because it's a John Cusack movie. And you think that his character is going to be important, but he's not. He's not important at all. Like, I guess he just needed some work. So John Cusack was like, Jeremy, you want to be in this movie since we're best friends right now before you're on Entourage? And you think that Jeremy Piven's going to be a part of like one of the four twists in the movie. And he's not. He's not at all. He doesn't matter. He doesn't matter at all. His character is a complete waste of time. And I really think that that's about all I have to say about Runaway Jury. It's not very good, and but it has some pretty good performances, and but it is way too long.
Yeah, boy, those performances don't make that sound like it's worth watching.
No, there are way better Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman movies. And John Cusack doesn't really fight anyone in this movie, although he does hit a car with a pipe. So there's that.
John Cusack's not exactly someone I think of as a fighter, so I don't know. That,
I don't know. All the movies that I really like John Cusack in, he's fighting somebody.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's Runaway Jury. I would not recommend it. And I definitely didn't know it was a John Grisham thing until the credits were rolling. So, take that for what it is.
All right.
Yeah. The end.
Okay.
All right. Now I think it's time for America's favorite segment, Preview Corner.
All right. So, Preview Corner. We got, I think, 7 movies to go with here.
Holy crap.
First, I saw a preview for... Well, I've noticed that it's usually 8. Like, that's how many previews seem to be before most movies now. So I kind of count to see. First preview was for The Lion King. I hate the original Lion King, so I'm like, really? Oh yeah. I thought the movie was fucking stupid. It's like the beginning and the end are irrelevant, and then the whole middle is just like pointless Hakuna Matata crap. But it makes me torn because I'm watching this and I'm like, man, the just the look of it like is so incredible. I'm probably going to end up in the theater just because it looks so neat. I was having this debate in my head, and I was like, look, Matt, you saw fucking Dumbo in the theater. I think you can handle going to see The Lion King. It does make me wonder, like, because there's one point in the preview where the boy lion and the girl lion are drinking water across a stream from one another.
Uh-huh.
And it made me remember back to the cartoon where, like, there's a moment where the woman lion is giving him the do me eyes.
Oh, yeah, like the straight up F me eyes.
And so I'm kind of like, I wonder how they're going to do that with this animation.
And then you realize that they're like brother and sister.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah.
Well, Game of Thrones reemerges. Saw another preview for Gemini Man. I don't know.
Is it a new trailer or the same one?
It's probably the same one. I'm bored with Will Smith, but he does still have a charismatic thing about him. He looks a little weird de-aged. Like, there's something about I can't quite place because I can't point out, like, here's the part that looks unrealistic about his de-aging. I think it might have something to do with the movement of his face, but it's a little strange. Saw another preview for Men in Black 4. I got nothing new to say about that. Saw another preview for Hobbs and Shaw. I got nothing new to say about that either. Saw a preview for It 2, or It Chapter 2.
Is this the one with the old lady in the apartment?
Yeah, and it's a really long preview.
Yeah, effective too.
It's almost like you're just watching this whole scene. It looks pretty good. I mean, it's definitely going to be better than the original. And I did like Chapter 1 for the most part. So I'll probably catch this one in the theater. I'm looking forward to it. I'm getting kind of tired of James McAvoy, but whatever. I'll still see it.
Oh, is he in the new one?
Yeah, he's in like everything now.
Yeah.
But you were going to ask a question?
I didn't see the Chapter 1.
Oh, you should check it out.
You said it was worth it?
Yeah, it something about it seems a little bit like I want to say Lifetime-y. Like it doesn't feel quite like a real movie, but I honestly think that might just be my mind doing that because the original It was a TV thing. And I saw that so many times as a kid.
Really?
Because that's appropriate for little kids.
I've never seen the original either.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen like clips, but like never like sat down to watch the whole thing.
Well, you know what? Sometime if I'm out in Delaware and you want to sit down for like 3.5 hours, I honestly I would not watch it any other way. Do not set aside time to watch this on your own, because it is bad. It's really bad. But I think it could be pretty entertaining if we were hanging out and maybe had a couple cold ones or something. So anyway, yeah, the new version, totally, yeah, check it out. You probably will enjoy it.
Okay.
You definitely would if you had seen the original because it's such a step up. But anyway, I saw a preview for a movie called Ford versus Ferrari, which has Matt Damon and Christian Bale in it. And,
yeah, it looks like dad crack.
Pretty much, yeah. I that's probably a good way to put it because I was
the only
watching
thing
it
the only thing that trailer is missing is Tom Hanks.
Yeah. There's a part of me that's mildly interested, and the rest of me that's not at all. And I think that's the part that when you say it seems like a dad movie, I'm like, oh yeah, that's that huge part of me. Like I don't want to see that. And then I saw a preview for a movie called Ad Astra, which has Brad Pitt going into space.
Oh yeah, I need to watch this trailer. Does it look good?
I don't know what to make of it. It must look kind of good because by the end of it, I was thinking along the lines of I'll be seeing that in the theater. But some of it's just to figure out what the heck's going on. And it's got Tommy Lee Jones in space. I think Tommy Lee Jones must be Brad Pitt's father. So Brad Pitt's character, it seems like he's involved in some way in researching something that his dad was working on, and it has something to do with communicating with aliens, and he's trying to sabotage something. And that's about as good as I can do as far as like explaining what it is. So but it looks interesting, so I'll probably go see it.
Okay.
All right. So that's it for Preview Corner.
Oh, okay. Any new developments in the world of Coca-Cola?
No.
Okay.
No. But I have had the diet version or the zero version of the Coke Orange and Vanilla. That was pretty good.
I like the regular version.
My own personal developments with Coke, yes. But as far as like in the theater experience, no. I just saw that same stupid commercial where they finish each other's sentences.
Yeah, I'm sick of that.
All right. So
it sounded like a car stopping.
Dark Phoenix. And I don't know if you noticed this, but this movie's not called X-Men Dark Phoenix. It's just Dark Phoenix.
Depending on where you are in the world, some places it's called X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Well, I'm in America, so I'm going to go with it. So let's see, the plot of this movie is, I don't really want to spoil anything. I don't. You're very familiar with the Dark Phoenix saga, so I don't know, because I never read it. I don't know what's actually from that and what's not. But I'll say that this is a lot different from the X-Men 3 Last Stand. So it doesn't feel so recycled. And I had not been interested in seeing this at all, but then I heard 2 different very positive reviews of it, and it got me curious. So anyway, the idea is that Jean Grey, and I have no idea, I never saw Apocalypse, so I don't know how much of this was tied in or connected at all with anything in Apocalypse. I feel like it shouldn't be. But I also had heard at some point that some Phoenix-y stuff happened in Apocalypse, so I don't know.
If I remember right, that's how she defeats Apocalypse, like with sand blasts from her Phoenix rays or something like that. She like walks on air and it's terrible.
Huh. Well, this starts out with her sort of causing an accident as a kid. And then kind of cuts to now. Well, not really now. It takes place in the 90s. But the whole movie takes place then. So present day 90s.
So this movie takes place in the 90s, but Apocalypse took place in like 1983.
Yeah, this is like 92, I think.
So it's supposed to be like 10 years later.
Yeah, and nobody has aged 10 years.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
I
don't know why they felt like they have
a
to be in separate decades.
I saw a thing online that posted a picture of Michael Fassbender from Dark Phoenix next to a picture of who plays old Magneto? Ian McKellen?
Yeah.
Next to Ian McKellen from the 2000 X-Men movie.
Yeah.
And they're like, look what happened to Magneto between 1993 and 2000.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't see Apocalypse, but it feels like it's a way to... Nobody's aged enough at all. Mm-hmm. Especially since, like, First Class.
Yeah, it was in the 60s.
Yeah, so they should be, like, 35 years old or something. And
is the Beast in this movie?
Yeah.
Now, I just found out, like, I'd never put it together, but, like, the guy who plays the Beast is Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who's the zombie in Warm Bodies.
Yeah.
He looks completely different. Like,
no.
I didn't put that together at all.
Yeah, he looks exactly the same. I don't know how you had trouble putting that together. He even looks the same as he did in About a Boy.
He's in About a Boy?
Yeah, he's the boy.
He's the little boy in About a Boy?
Yeah, we're old, Nick. We're real old.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah. We're probably as old as Hugh Grant was in that movie.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. So now that existential crisis is set in, so then in present day or 1992, there's something going on in space, and the X-Men get involved, and a power is absorbed into Jean Grey. And the rest of the movie is her struggling with this power and hurting people along the way, really. And people trying to figure out what to do about it. And unfortunately, there are some aliens involved in the plot. But I'll kind of leave it at that. I don't think they're the spoily stuff, but there are some things that happen throughout the movie that I don't think the trailer gives away. I'm not sure. But this movie's pretty short. It might have just been a little bit over an hour and a half.
Really?
Maybe. It's definitely under 2 hours. I'm confident about that. And so it does feel a little bit rushed, but given the way it plays out, I don't feel like if it had been longer, it would have necessarily been better. Sophie Turner does a good job. My expectations for her acting are usually pretty low, but I think she did a good job in it. And the movie itself is a lot better than I had expected before hearing the positive reviews.
Uh-huh.
The reviews I had heard may have like overstated things a little bit, but I would recommend this movie. I never saw Apocalypse. I know it's like the 5th time I've said this. So,
have you seen Apocalypse?
Is that a joke?
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, shut up. So yeah. But I imagine this is a lot better than Apocalypse. So I can't compare it directly, but I think based on what you've said about it and what other people have said about it, I would imagine this is quite a bit better.
You should watch it.
I do not want to. And I haven't heard anything positive about it, so no. I got convinced to see this by positive reviews. Jennifer,
you should watch it because it's really bad.
No, I don't want to.
Is it the only one you haven't seen?
Yes.
Well, you got to see all of them.
Well, if I'm hanging out, no, I don't. But if I'm hanging out with you and we watch it, then we can follow it up with Apocalypse.
Oh, I don't ever want to watch it again.
Well, then I'm not gonna. Jennifer Lawrence almost gave half a crap in this movie, in some scenes. but that's it. So that's not actually a positive thing. Whatever. She wasn't anything great. The character does a couple things. Like, she's arguing a bit with Professor X, and Xavier's a bit flawed in this movie. I don't know if that's the case before, but it's pretty cool. Like, there's a lot of character ambiguity, and even though Jennifer Lawrence, and I'm not necessarily criticizing her as an actress altogether, I just think she hasn't wanted to be in these movies for so long, and they've kept her in it.
I didn't even realize she was in this one.
Yeah. And she's got kind of an important role, and in terms of the debate that goes on between her and Xavier, it does make the movie pretty interesting. I do have the feeling if this movie was like a 2.5 hour movie, like the other X-Men movie, I probably would be pretty down on it. But there's not a whole lot of time to get real critical of things. And it ended up being pretty enjoyable. I think they reused the lobby from The Matrix 2. You know, with the stairwell where they're like fighting across these like two rising stairs across the lobby from one another. And that was kind of weird. It just stood out to me. I was like, I feel like I've been here before. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about it. You know, if it was something that you had seen too, I'm sure we could get into a longer discussion. But without wanting to spoil anything, I think that's probably where I should leave it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I need to see it, but I'm probably not going to see it in the theaters, which is going to be like the first X-Men movie I don't see in theaters. Oh,
that's too bad. I saw it in IMAX, and it was nice. I don't know that the effects are all perfect or anything, but there were a lot of points where I was like, this is pretty to watch.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe if it ends up being like a, matinee and you just are free.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Well, I guess it's time to do our famous segment, our movie rankings list. I guess I'll go first because I'm filling it out right now. I'll start with Master and Commander, and I'm going to put this up in the number 4 slot between Braveheart and The Martian. I'm going to give it 5 stars because it's fantastic. And it's a total recommend. It's a wonderful movie. And then I watched Runaway Jury, which is going all the way down to the number 57 slot in between After Earth and Terminator Genesis. And this movie is going to get 1.5 stars and a no for I don't recommend it. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to open up your list. And Matt, you saw 3 movies this week.
That is true. I saw. I'll start from the top, and I'll go with The Sixth Sense, which I am placing under. Actually, you know what? I was going to place it under Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but I think I'm going to place it under The Nice Guys.
Oh, between Nice Guys and Avengers Endgame.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and now I'm feeling like I want to put it above The Nice Guys. Nope, I'll leave it there. Under The Nice Guys.
How many stars for The Sixth Sense?
4.5.
4.5. And I'm guessing that's a recommend.
Definitely.
All right. And then you saw
And then I'm going to put Dark Phoenix. Well, I saw 2 more things, but I'm going in order. So I'm going to put Dark Phoenix between Snowpiercer and Pumpkinhead.
Wow, that's pretty far up there.
My expectations were super low, so I ended up enjoying it a lot.
Okay,
but I think I'll give it 3 stars.
Wow,
and a thumbs up.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and then if we scroll down more to, you're going to be pleased by this. Because I'm putting Signs beneath Contagion.
But better than Glass?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely better than Glass. It wasn't as self-congratulatory as Glass, so I don't feel like as much Shyamalan hatred during it.
And how many stars would you give it?
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
All right. And is it a recommend?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Okay, great. If you're interested in seeing our movie rankings list, check out thisweekinfilm.com. If you click on our Letterboxd, there's a link to our Letterboxd page. You can find it there. Or more conveniently, if you click on the episode that's at the top, you can go in there and go down to the rundown, and you will see a link to Nick's list, which is me, and Matt's list, which is Matt's. Matt, anything to plug this week?
Yes, actually. And spoiler alert for the future. I'll recommend this again later.
It may also be the past.
I'm going to recommend Cynical Reviews. And I'm bringing this up partly because you mentioned Braveheart. And just last night, I watched a 2-part Cynical review of Braveheart by this guy. And he's a British dude. Sometimes he's a little more even picky than I am, but I like him. And when he's going over the Braveheart one, I think you should check it out because he likes Braveheart, but he's just also a stickler for like accurate history, so he's ripping it apart, even though he really enjoys it. So I'd say check it out. Okay,
cool. Cynical Reviews. All right. Well, I guess if that is the end of the reel, we'll see you next week in film.
Thanks for listening.